So there's an Indian motif for canoes and paddles and shit. And they make a comment about this whole thing in the movie The Edge. And I always loved it. The motif is there's a panther on one side, and on the other side, there's a rabbit smoking a pipe. Speaking of which, and the question in The Edge was, why does the rabbit smoke his pipe? I think that's the real question in life, gentlemen. Why does the rabbit sit and smoke his pipe? The answer in that movie was that he's smarter than the panther and he knows it. I think that's pretty much essentially true. In life, there are many people that are panthers, right? These are people that value frivolous things. They may be very dangerous or whatever, but it doesn't really matter how dangerous they look or how scary they are or how dangerous they even are, because they aren't smart enough to apply that well enough to catch you. And they might kill you, but in order to kill you, first they must catch you. And this is the thing with most people. I've had times in my life where somebody was very heavily armed and could easily have shot me. And because I'm me and have just a giant set of brass balls, basically. Not in reality. This is like the way you say, like, a girl's got a set of balls. It's the way I have a set of balls. I have this ability to just, coldly look you in the eye and not give a fuck about the fact that your name is El Scorpion and that you have a fucking submachine gun pointed at me and charm my way into your life. There's many examples of this, but this is an ability that most people won't have. This is the thing that, like, I would go into any situation you could name me. If I can have my jewelry and my prayer beads and my pocket knife, I'll go. And the thing you should understand is, it's not that I'm the best with those or whatever. It's that I'm going to act like a bumbling, incompetent idiot. So much so that the people wherever this is will not take me as a serious threat. I've employed this many, many times. People think a certain thing about a thing when it acts a certain way. Ergo, you should be an actor. And this is the thing about anything that most people don't understand, is that if you're an actor and you do it better. One of my favorite lines in any movie or film or anything is in the Marvel quick take thing with the Mandarin in prison. He's like, "You won't shoot me." And he goes, "I'm an out-of-work actor, love. You have no idea what I'm capable of." It's kind of how I feel most of the time. It's this ability that, like, I can fake anything for long stretches, believe it or not. I can impersonate, I can slip in, I can do many things. And because I'm kind of funny and fucked up in the head and can play crazy and stupid, I get away with a lot. So, why does the rabbit sit and smoke his pipe? My question to you, if you're the panther, is you should be very, very concerned about why the rabbit sits and smokes his pipe. Because whatever it is, it's the thing that's going to get you. Because the rabbit sits and smokes his pipe while you're walking right at him, right? What, like, why is he doing that? And like this is the message of this video, I guess, is the thing that you should learn from me, if you learn anything, is to never underestimate someone by how they look. I wear women's clothing and I'm kind of chubby and I have big tits and I act like a fag. That's how I act in a lot of places. No one would ever suspect that I can use a 1911, and a Colt revolver, or a Glock, or an AR-15, or an AK, or any one of 1,000 weapons better than fucking most soldiers. No one would guess that I can make my own weapons wherever I am. They might be fucking karate bullshit, but you stick me in any environment and I will start finding you weapons. This is the shit that makes a person truly dangerous, in my opinion. And it's not using a gun. It's being the sort of person that thinks a little bit outside the box and knows a vast deal of shit. And I don't know how you would teach this. It's kind of just something that when you see it in another person, you start helping them. I've seen it in other people and tried to help. I've had people do that for me, and I was grateful. And this is like, I don't know, you got the devil in you or something. There's something. Most people aren't like this. Most people are sheep for one reason or another. Most people are not whatever this is, looking to score, I guess. Like that's the mentality that I have when I defend myself, is that of like a predator. And I can turn that on or off. And I think that's the thing that makes people end up in jail, is they don't have the ability to turn it on or off. Anyway, I think usually, in my experience, if the rabbit is sitting and smoking his pipe, there are two answers. One is that the rabbit's bluffing you. This is my favorite tactic. My plan, gentlemen, is that there was no fucking plan. I literally went in here with no plan at all and just a Colt revolver or whatever, and figured I'd see how things shook out. Because no one would ever think you'd be that stupid. No one. No one in a million years. And like maybe you do a little research beforehand, but like, my plan would be to get caught. Like you want to get into the center of their perimeter or whatever and get to the heart of the thing, to the guy. Like I'd get caught, and then I'd have a plan on how to get out of the whatever they had to get me caught in. Okay, that's this is some of the outside the box thinking. And like it depends on what you're wanting to do or whatever, but like if you're just defending yourself, this is what this channel's mostly about. The ability to turn random shit around you into blunt object like weapons. That's something you should look into. Like it's not, oh, I know that I can pick up a stapler and beat someone to death. While true, that's true of most metallic objects. So, like, if you're wanting to really, be a more dangerous person, be able to defend yourself, you can learn fucking jujitsu or whatever. That's a totally valid thing to do. What I'm telling you is that jujitsu is very much the path of the jaguar. And the jaguar should be very concerned about the rabbit smoking his pipe. Because the other path is that you, as the rabbit, aren't me and don't just wing it. and you go in with a plan, whatever it is. You planned the thing to death. Like, for example, Castle Onslaught or fucking infiltrating a fucking military base or fucking whatever it is. Like, you go about it a certain way. Like, are we a big force? Can we just take it and then root through the files? If so, then my plan of going in and just winging it becomes a lot more viable because I can go do that while the main force attacks, and me and three boys with some backpacks of shit can really play havoc on people's ability to pay attention to the front lines. Okay? That's the rabbit. Whereas, like, in a hand to hand fight, if someone's bringing jujitsu to the table, the rabbit to that is I picked up the stapler off the desk and literally hit them in the head with the stapler part of the stapler and stapled their head. That's shit you can't teach. Like, we're in an office. There's a door to that office. I'm going to hold them by the ear now that their head's been stapled, drag them across the room to where the door is, put their head in between the door and the wall, and slam it until they're unconscious. Again, after you hit them in the head with the stapler, they're probably going to be in a little bit of surprise, whatever. And this is assuming this person doesn't have a gun or some shit. If they have a gun or some shit, that's a different thing. You hit them in the head with the stapler, and then you start fighting over the gun. Like, this is some basic shit. I feel stupid saying this, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of people that will benefit from watching this video. Like, everyone has this idea of combat as being this thing that, like, is in Hollywood or video games, whatever. It's controlled chaos. It's all around you, and you're in the middle of it, and you don't know what the fuck is going on, and all you know is what's going on in front of you. And at that point, it's kind of like driving a race car. It's the same thing. You just got to keep going. Keep going forward. If you keep going forward, you might live. If you stop, you die. That's not 100% of it, but if you're not at cover, that's, yeah. There's other things that complicate into that, but like structures are death traps. Like, my plan to survive the apocalypse is to find a big structure, and it's going to be mine. And you're not going to want to come to Ray Ray's House of Horrors in downtown Tulsa, probably. I'll be in one of those big towers. I'll be on the top floor with 100 floors of doom. My end of the world kit includes snare wire and fishing line and shit like that. Paracord and rope. Okay? Like, all of that shit, depending on where you are, dictates what you use it for. If you're in the jungle, you can make all sorts of shit out of trees, right? If you're in the city, you can do a lot of that same shit. And if you're in the city in a war zone, well, now you have a whole new kit to play with. And I'm not going to talk about the things that you can do because it'll get me pulled off YouTube. But let's just say that, like, soup cans come in handy. Okay? Random piles of debris and metal can come in handy. Like, there's all sorts of shit that can come in handy. And snare wire and fucking fishing line and a few other things. Fuse. Those are handy things to carry. And like, this is, again, the rabbit's smoked his pipe. He's prepared whatever this battle space is going to be because it's his. And that's the difference between the rabbit and the panther. Okay. The rabbit, not even fucking fighting. It's usually running, right? Like maybe it uses its back claws to kick the fucking panther. Ooh, scary rabbit. Or it's more likely that the rabbit's just running in a particular direction that happens to have tripwires and shit. Like, this is the thing. In the end of the world, you should be very, very fucking careful about following people. You should be very, very careful about a great many things. And the reason is, I exist. And I'm pretty smart, but I've met people smarter than me. The unique combo that I have going for me is that I'm particularly mean and smart. And that doesn't happen as much. So I guess that's a thank God thing for you guys. Because, like, when you have some level of genius mixed with some level of liking weapons and shit, like, the person that I want in my doomsday crew is Bob Lazar. I would love to have Bob Lazar as my, like, second dude in the fucking dune buggy, whatever. Like, I want a mad scientist. That's kind of what I try to do, although a lot of my stuff is kind of like medievally because, like, that's me. I don't know. I really like old shit. I like old shit because it really fucks up people's plans sometimes. You'd be amazed how much a black powder cannon can just ruin people's day. For example. And, like, my thing with the black powder revolver is I know I can load this thing hotter than fuck balls. That's what I'm gonna do on some sort of. I'm gonna do cartridge conversions for this thing, and whichever way I go, I'm gonna load it as hot as I can fucking get it with a big ass heavy bullet. And the idea with that is, um, it doesn't matter if you're wearing body armor or not. If you're getting hit by something that has the kinetic energy of, like, a train, okay? And that's kind of my thought with that revolver in general is, like, I have faith in the big chunk of lead moving at relatively fast velocities. I think if I packed some 45 Colt rounds right, I could probably get some ridiculously hot black powder loads. And, like, you'd be like, oh, that's going to wear out the gun. Well, I want like 10 of those loaded with the gun. And, like, after those 10 have been shot, we'll assess whether or not we ever load another 10. But for those first 10 shots that I use at people, I think the revolver could probably handle being loaded up a little hot. The other thing is, I'm not going to do anything unsafe, but, like, the thing with 45 Colt is if I'm loading a big ass bullet, which I'm going to be, the case only has so much capacity. And I'm actually thinking about going 45 ACP. So it would be even smaller. But that's not what this video was about. But what all of this adds up to is, why the black powder? Well, everything that has to do with that black powder revolver comes in handy. Lead, black powder, whatever. While the revolver itself is fun to shoot and a thing that you can use for various things or whatever, and in reality, for most situations in your day-to-day life, a single action revolver in 45 Colt or 45 auto would get you by. Like, I really can't think of a situation outside of, like, terrorists attacking or something like that. And if that's the case, maybe, like, I'll pack a fucking, bag of ammo or something in my purse. I think the advantage of that black powder revolver is it could handle most of the things you'd ever need. And it's kind of cool that it's old school and you can supply it yourself. Between casting your own projectiles, making your own black powder, and rolling your own hand loads and shit, like that's about as much control as you can get over that shit. And I wanted at least one gun that I had that for, and I wanted an old school gun, and I wanted to play with black powder, so that's all of that. And that's a little bit of that, rabbit smoking his pipe thing is I'm not doing that for now. I'm preparing my shit for the next 100 years. I don't know where this ends or when this ends, and even though I may be dead, I have a brother and a nephew, and who knows, I might even have my own children someday, although I highly doubt that. And I'm going to have this revolver with all the shit for it and detailed instructions on how to make it work amongst the shit that I give my nephew. I think he's going to need this. And the reason I say that is because of where things stand now. Where things stand now, we're on shaky ground. It could go kind of one or two ways, maybe three ways. Things could go back to normal, right? Doubt it. Option two, things continue to get worse until I'm dead. And he eventually is left being a miserable old son of a bitch himself and having kids and whatever, living in some sort of future utopia hell where there are no guns and we're not allowed to be free and yada yada yada. Well, if that's his future, this revolver is for him because he's still gonna need a gun. And in the meantime, I think it's a fucking cool revolver. I don't think that in my lifetime it will be an issue for me to get 45 auto. I think in my children's lifetime it could be. And as a result, I'm learning to use this thing to teach my nephew how to use it. So he has a backup. And like this is some of that like ancient knowledge shit that's been lost. Like this used to be a thing that like every man just knew how to work a fucking Colt revolver. Like because when they were 5, they really thought it was cool and they asked their uncles and their dad and they showed them. And that shit sticks with you. And then they ended up shooting that gun all through whatever. That was the thing in the post Civil War to like 1930s world is that everybody knew how to shoot these. At least if you were male, you know, you grew up hearing about the Civil War the way we grew up hearing about World War II. And this is a lost thing, or it's starting to be, and I'm trying to preserve it for myself. And the best way to preserve something like this is to do it. And again, it seems silly now. Everybody's like, "Whoa, why the black powder revolver?" Well, the rabbit's smoking his pipe. You know, what happens if next year there is no more ammo? Period. You're on your own with whatever you got. At that point, this would be the only gun I'd be shooting, and I'm pretty confident in the government's ability to be stupid and ignore black powder shit. If that doesn't happen, then I'll be, scrounging around to get illegal shit anyway, and I will just have black powder supplies on my list of things that I can use. Not that I think that's a likely scenario, but this is where my head is at on that gun. And I don't foresee me getting into reloading. I think that's kind of a foolish thing, to be honest. It's a For me, I'm never gonna have some place that's like just a dedicated reloading shop. It's a thing that like sucks up a bunch of your life to do that. What I want is one kind of old school gun where I can roll my own hand loads. And that's why I'm going to do a cursed converter on this black powder. And I'm hoping to keep it where I can still do black powder and do cartridges, but I don't know if that's possible. Other ways that you could be the rabbit smoking his pipe is pretty much anything involving prepping. But like everyone thinks about prepping like buying food. I'm thinking about prepping like prepping your battle space. Like you are in your home, right? Is your home a good place to defend or not? Okay. There's weird things you can do. We can talk about some of that, but like in general, I like lights on. In general, I like locked doors. In general, you know, some lights on the driveway that pop on automatically are a good idea. That's all, rule of law, whatever. What about normal times? Sorry, what about not normal times? What about shit? It's the fan. Well, there's two ways to go. There's, in my opinion, the gray man kind of thing, which is you stay at your house and you just stop taking care of it. Looks like nobody lives there. And if people, start to break down your door or something, well, then you shoot whoever comes in. Other option, which is more my speed, is I'm not going to hide. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do my stuff and I'm going to wear my guns. And if you decide to make today the day that you die, then cool. And that's how I intend to be. And as a result, whoever I do kill in the end of the world, I'm going to put their head on a pike somewhere around where I am. And I'm just going to keep doing that. And that's one of those things that, like, a lot of people like see in movies and shit, and they don't get the what fors and whys of. That's it's like a trophy thing, but it's a warning to anyone else. It's like the last guy that came here died. Just leave me alone. That's the idea of it. Anyone that's putting heads on pikes, that's in general the message being sent. Either that or, come be the next head on the pike. So I guess it depends. After a while, you can get to that point. I could see that. I guess I don't like it. I don't like working that hard. I'm lazy. I'd rather they just leave me alone. But at the same time, I'm also not gonna hide like a bitch. And like that's the thing is in like the here and now, maybe it's a good idea to hide a little bit. But at the same time, like my van, I didn't leave that van gold and just accept it looking stupid. I fucking camoed it to where I like it. And like that's the difference between it and any other car. Well, that's why I keep calling it a fucking motorcycle that you can sleep in. It's like the basic idea of it is to have something that you can modify. And because that minivan is so cheap, you're free to do whatever you want. Like if you spend $30,000 on a car, it's really hard to start spray painting it. So why does the rabbit spray paint his car? Why does the rabbit smoke his pipe? Why does the rabbit do anything? Well, everything at the end of the day comes back to the fact that the rabbit knows that the panther's out there, right? The rabbit knows it's food. And like, I'm not saying to be the rabbit. I'm saying like there are things to be learned from the rabbit and that they are of value. And all of this shit, whether you're panther or rabbit, would make you a better at whatever it is you're being. It's knowledge and understanding and kind of somehow you see the universe kind of shit. Okay? And a lot of people that I would call panthers are into preparing in various ways, but it's not all of this bullshit. And all this bullshit would never occur to them because they're just not that creative. Because they've never had to be, because they get by on whatever. They're a panther. They're probably strong, good looking, and various other things. Right? Like in this metaphor or whatever, this is, this is a clash of two different types of alpha male type personalities, is what it is, really. There's the young, strong panther and the old, wise rabbit. Which wins? Well, it very much depends on the rabbit and the panther, right? It's kind of the same way with anything. In general, I think this thought exercise and this metaphor helps you to sharpen your sword because whatever you're getting out of what I'm saying applies to you. It's about what is going on in your head. Are you the rabbit or are you the panther? Are you the person that needs to learn shit or are you the person that probably should put the book down? And I've been at both of those places in my life. I had a cup full of bullshit and needed a lot of exercise. So if you're in that position, like, welcome to the club. If if you're a fucking Greek god and listening to this, but have no clue how to make mac and cheese, don't worry, honey. I will have a job for you in the end of the world. Some of you might even like it. Ray Ray's man hose. It's gonna be my new business. I'm not really into pimping women, but in this new feminized world, I figure I can sling some dick at some ladies. Fred Jarman, male prostitute. Anyway, made myself laugh. Oh, we're talking about rabbits and pipes. Speaking of which, hi church. He's the talkingest cat. He's my co-host. What do you guys say to the people, church? Strong silent type now, huh? Okay. He wants weed. That's why he's here. Anyway, if you are the fucking panther, I think you're actually in a very good position, really. You just need to know what you are. And if you're a panther, the thing that you need to learn is that while you might be smart and while you might be the best at a great many things, there are people that are smarter than you. and their plan might be better than your plan. And if you're doing something where it's the plan that is the competition and not the athlete, you could be in for some trouble. And like, this is the thing, is combat is both. It's hella both. It's an athletic endeavor and a mental one, right? Like, you could be the best athlete in the world, and if you don't know not to run into the machine gun fire, you're going to be a very dead athlete. So I guess what I'm trying to make is a bunch of panthers that sit around on smoke pipes, like Church here, who doesn't actively smoke. He just like comes up to me and looks at me like, blow smoke at my face. I'm pathetic and I need marijuana. He's a junkie. And like, some people will never be that panther, right? They'll never fucking be an Adonis. That's me. I'll never be that. Like, I'll always be, I don't know, some sort of a chubby chick, no matter what. I already know that. Yay. That's my own whatever. You will have your own whatever to deal with. That could be brain don't work too good. That could be you have too big of muscles to grip guns and swords properly. That was Arnold Schwarzenegger when he made Conan the Barbarian. John Milius made him stop exercising for like 3 months or something like that to get him to actually be able to wield a sword. Because his muscles were so big. Like, that's one of those jaguar things or panther things. Like, you should know what you are. And if you are developing show muscles are quite a bit different than muscles that actually do work. If you really want to exercise, the things that I would recommend are like walking with a heavy backpack on and blacksmithing, believe it or not. I would get a very heavy hammer and I would do it in the heat of the summer, and yeah, you'll figure it out. It sucks. But it's awesome at the same time because you get to make swords. And you have to keep saying that to yourself the entire time that you're doing it. We get to make swords. That's why we're doing this. Eventually, that voice in the back of your head goes away, and it's just replaced with, yay, swords. But that's several years in. Like, this is the thing I think a lot of people don't realize about, like, the knife making thing is the part that I like is the forging. Like, that's, my shop is like 140 to 160 degrees in the summer. And I haven't been doing that much lately, but I've been inspired and I want to forge something, and I'm going to go waste some propane. I don't know if I'll have money to refill that tank, but maybe. I'm going to make 2 files into Scottish dirks. One for me and one as a gift for someone. I have a YouTuber in mind that I particularly enjoy their work, and they like all of this shit too. And they made some videos that took them from being like a 7 out of 11 on my scale of coolness to like being a 12 or some shit. And that was This channel makes a bunch of black powder videos. It's Duelist 1954. It's the channel, and the thing that he did that made him go up on the cool factor to me is he's always made videos about black powder guns and loading black powder and actually shooting these guns and even actually defending yourself with them in their historical context, if not a modern context. And he made a video the other day as his advice to felons on what he would buy and why he would do it, and like given the laws and yada yada yada. And that man gets a sword. That's why I'm breaking out the forge again. I was already going to make one of these for myself. I have a couple extra files that I had for making into such things. I'm I'm now making at least two of them into Scottish Dirks. I have an idea for how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make one of them first as an experiment. I don't know which one. I have one English file and one file that's from Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm pretty sure he's in Pennsylvania someplace. So Cleveland, Ohio is pretty close to there. It's a lot closer than England, so I think he's going to get that one. My idea is basically to forge out that blade as much as I can, and then I have a shitty 1x30 belt sander that I need to go buy some belts for, but I can get a couple packs of belts for that pretty cheap. And once I have that, the only cutting that I'd need to do to make this dirk would be nipping the tang off the file, which I can do with a hot file, sorry, a hot chisel. And the only other thing would be profiling the front part of the blade. However, that comes out, some of it's going to have to come off. So I might have to do that with a hot file too. Ordinarily, I'd probably take that off with a belt sander and or saw or something like that, but I don't have any of that shit here. So I'm gonna have to go a little old school, and I think that's gonna make these cooler. I thought about just finishing them with files, but I think them being files themselves, even if I anneal the files, which I'm going to do some half-ass job at before I forge them, um, I don't think they're going to be the easiest thing to file. And I don't have that good of files right now either. So I'm going to cheat and use my little 1x30. It's kind of barely running, but I got it to run the other day with a real belt on it, and it was doing good enough to, I think, do what I would need for this. Because basically, all I need is something to clean up the back edge and something to sharpen with. I can forge the fucking thing the rest of the way. Like, that's the thing a lot of people don't get about forging a blade versus, making one with a grinder is you can make it 90% of the way there usually with forging if you know what you're doing and plan correctly. You can really forge 100% shape almost. There's a couple of things that in particular where like you could fix it forging or you could just grind it off. Guess which camp I'm in? Fixing it by forging. My forge has to run burning propane for another, what, to fix the tip on those swords versus the grinder, easily another 20-30 minutes of having the propane on. I don't know what that costs, a few dollars, a couple dollars, versus the grinder is basically free and it will do a faster job of it. Like, this thing where, like, I love old school shit to a point. And I like knowing the old school low tech way of doing shit because, like, right now, I don't have a big, powerful grinder. I have a grinder that I could use to sharpen. I don't have a grinder that I could use to hog off a big section of metal. I sold that at Wanamaker because the one I had was powered by 220, and I need a smaller one anyway. And I just, I was young and stupid, and I didn't buy the grinder that I really needed. So now on to our second grinder. I'll get something a little more appropriate. And honestly, from what I've learned about tools, there's no reason to really go high end on a lot of shit. Some things, definitely. Like, if you want a bandsaw, the bandsaw that I would get to have in a garage shop is a Swag Portaband table. They make them for a variety of Portabands. Find the one that you like best. The thing that I'm going to do, I can't decide if I'm just going to go get mine back from the pawn shop or if I'm going to do what I was planning to do, which is why I sold it. I pawned it because I was planning to get a battery powered saw. That would be a completely different thing. That I'd need a new table anyway, and basically, I knew all of that, and knowing that was like, oh, I won't need this anymore, and kind of didn't realize that I'm still gonna want to make things, and I need that shit. So I'll have to get that back, but that's not gonna be a big deal. Honestly, I might make a third one of these to sell. I do have a third file. If you would be interested in a Scottish Dirk made by me, um, I would probably charge a couple $100, something like that, because there's not gonna be a sheath with it. Oh, ow! I would, I would make such a thing. It would at least help me get my tools back. I'm really not into making knives for other people anymore. Generally, I'm making that one as a gift. And like I said, I've got three of these files, so I'll probably make a third one. But back to the rabbit smoking his pipe. I don't know where I left off on that. I just think it's an interesting way to look at the world. It's kind of like, you know, a buddy of mine used to like to talk about the grasshoppers and the ants or whatever. Fucking E Honda. Same idea. It's, are you the kind of person that, prepares? Are you the kind of person that wings it? I like to be both. I find being both makes you very unpredictable. My favorite thing to do is I tell people that I have magic powers, when in reality, I'm just very, very smart and plan ahead. And so, for example, I went to dinner at Del Taco the other night with my grandmother and my uncle. We all used coupons, and I did a certain thing in front of the manager or whatever that signaled, hey, and on our orders, we all got extra shit. And they were like, how'd that happen? And I was like, it's a kind of magic. Like, what? Like, I have magical powers and I doubled our food. It's a miracle. In reality, I met the manager of the fucking, what's it called? Del Taco. And me saying, hey, got us extra food. But I pass that off as magic. And this is the thing, is if you start doing that enough, not around like your family and shit, but around like people in the end of the world that are stupid, they'll start believing it. And this is half of why I do anything anymore is I'm playing the character of a wizard because I know people that will buy this. And knowing that, it's one of my new survival strategies. The other thing is most people like to leave crazy people alone. It's a pro tip. It's probably a good thing for most of y'all. And like this is the thing is you shouldn't fuck with the person in the painted minivan because you don't know what they've done to it. Woo. I plan on doing a bunch of James Bond mods to that thing. I've already got some shit and some shit planned. Like I'm gonna have a loudspeaker because why wouldn't you have a loudspeaker? I found out you could add that to a car for $100. Yeah, hell yes. Like I'm gonna add like a light bar for like like one of those LED off-roading light bars and a couple LED lights on the bumper and a fucking winch and a solar panel, fucking roof rack with fucking water cans and shit. I'm gonna build some sort of custom roof rack thing. Like this thing's gonna look like the fucking Ghostbusters mobile or whatever. I can't wait to see how the Ray Ray mobile comes together. I really should have called that thing the Rabbit. It's like the Rabbit's smoke shack on wheels. I like that minivan because it gets 25 miles to the gallon. It's older than sin. I let it sit for fucking like 2 months not running and charged the battery last weekend and started it first shot. I like it. I haven't driven it around much, but just based on that, I like it. And the reason I haven't driven it around much is because someone cut the catalytic converter off, and I still haven't fixed that. And I've been debating on ways to go, and I think I'm going to replace the catalytic converter. And I hate to do that, but I think, however I do it, one of the future modifications to this car is going to be some anti fucking with my car shit. I don't know what that's going to entail. I think I'm going to start an alarm system, but I'm also going to start it like welding shit around that pipe they cut. Shit that's hard to cut through. I have a whole bunch of fucking railroad spikes, and I know some friends that have. I know some guys that have a gun store that used to be auto mechanics. That the one of them became a gunsmith because he welded together a torch cut MG42 for fun. These are the people that owe me favors. How about you? And like, I'm gonna go to them and ask them how they would solve this problem and give them a couple $100 probably. It's one of those things like they wouldn't do that for everybody, but this is why it's handy to go and make friends. And like that's the thing is a lot of people don't know the benefits that you can get just driving around to gun stores and kicking tires and buying ammo. You know, get to make friends with them and whatever, buy the occasional gun from them. When my buddy got his store driven through, they drove through. His store was in a mini mall, and instead of going through the front where he had all this like barricade and shit, they drove through the end of the mini mall, drove through 5 stores into his store, stole a bunch of stuff, and then drove out. They were super geniuses. They added about 1 billion years to their sentence for that shit. Kind of gangster. Anyway, when that happened to him, I called him about, I don't know, an hour after it happened. And I was like, I'm gonna come to your store. Do you want breakfast? And he's like, yes, yes, I do want breakfast. Where are you going? I brought him Whataburger pancakes. I didn't pay for a transfer at that store for like 2 years. It was great. He eventually was like, I have to start charging you. But that's the kind of shit that, like, if you have your ear to the ground enough, be the person that shows up with pancakes. Get you good shit. Like, this is some of the stuff that, like, I've done over the years to get in good with people. Everything is an opportunity. And, like, not that I did that just to get shit from him, but, like, I was already up. It was 5:40 in the morning or some shit like that on a fucking Sunday or whatever the fuck it was. And I knew he was already having the morning from hell. And I had gathered from what I had heard that he had been dealing with this since at least 2 a.m. As it turns out, not quite that bad. It was like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., but still just as bad. And no, he hadn't had breakfast. So uh, I told him that those were after sex pancakes because when you get raped by a fucking suburban going through your mini mall, it's the same as. uh, it's pretty much true. Like, when I told him that as he was eating his pancakes, he almost choked. For like, I don't know, to this day, still, if I walk in his store and mention something about pancakes, we just laugh about after sex pancakes. It's getting less and less funny as I look more and more girlier and hotter and hotter. Uh, that's half the reason I don't like having my camera on. Is it's either distracting because I'm fat, or it's distracting because I'm trans, or it's distracting because I'm hot. I don't really know what it is. It's one of the three, depending on who you are. That's why I like doing this as a radio show with my, icon there of me in my trash bag ghillie suit with Terminator eyes and shotgun. Because I don't think it matters what I look like. Some people disagree, but some people are just gonna be disappointed when I walk down the aisle someday in a fucking, you know, Valkyrie outfit, getting married to some dude with a dick the size of like a fucking baseball bat. That's what's in my future. Hopefully. I'm on the hunt. I love men, but I fucking hate dating them. That's a topic for a different video. So I'm just gonna end this here because I want to talk about that, and I don't think any of you really want to hear any more about my dating life. If you do, tell me. Thanks for watching.